Well, on the election trail today, we're giving promises a reality check and watching an early trend in the campaign, one to demonize Stephen McNeil. First, to a big promise by the Progressive Conservatives to spend $2 billion on infrastructure, with half of the money coming from the federal government. We start our coverage tonight with the CBC's Paul Withers, who joins us now live. Good evening, Paul.
Well, good evening to you, Tom. You know, everybody agrees Nova Scotia needs a new VG hospital. Planning is underway, but is it realistic to hold out hope that Ottawa will help pay for it?
We have a Trudeau government that says they want to invest in infrastructure. I believe there's a deal to be made there. That
Jamie Bailey today suggesting he will succeed where others have failed, to convince the federal government to spend infrastructure dollars to replace the dilapidated VG hospital.
No, it's more than an ask. It's a business case, and I have confidence in it, and I have confidence in my ability to go to Ottawa and make that case and get our fair share of national infrastructure funding.
It's an ask made by Stephen McNeil last year and rejected.
Well, I couldn't get Prime Minister Trudeau to convince in healthcare. I'm certain Mr. Bailey won't.
The PCs later pointed to upgrades at research facilities and hospitals affiliated with McGill University, and federal Liberal election material promising to invest in hospitals as part of the basic infrastructure the economy needs. However, new hospitals are not eligible for funding under current federal infrastructure guidelines or new ones announced by the Trudeau government this spring.
Prime Minister Trudeau has made it clear, as so did Prime Minister Harper, that healthcare infrastructure is the responsibility of the premiers.
If they're going to short changes in the hospital, then they're going to have to make it up somewhere else.
While Stephen McNeil was dismissing the Tories, he was being personally vilified today by the NDP, this time for cuts to recreational and diet funding at seniors' homes.
This is my own mom's supper from last week.
His NDP opponent in Annapolis came to Halifax to show a meal prepared for his mom while she waits in transitional care in Middleton.
And those hands right there made that same meal for me 1,000 times. But when they did, it came with a piece of ham and some fresh vegetables. This is a direct consequence of Stephen McNeil's cuts in Annapolis County and the effect that it's having on people.
A union shop steward at Northwood brought out horror stories from across the province.
Our homes have actually had to go to cheaper incontinent products, and that creates not only risks of infection for our residents.
The NDP say a heartless McNeil government is to blame.
I found it troubling to think that the government should have been so detached from the realities.
Well, we checked with the Nova Scotia Health Authority for a response to that picture of the bean and potato supper of Mrs. Sproul. We were told the menu at the Milton facility offers 30 different items, including fruits, vegetables, and other healthy choices. Patients choose what they want to eat depending on how they feel. Fresh and homemade food is prepared daily by cooks on site, offering plenty of healthy choices for patients. Tom?
All right, Paul, thanks so much for that. The CBC's Paul Withers in our newsroom. And still with politics, the number of women running in the election has become a hot topic on the campaign. It all started yesterday when Liberal leader Stephen McNeil said this to reporters.
The fact that we've elected 10 women to the House of Assembly, more than any other political party in history, demonstrates that I've given a clear message to our association. I want women in seats that we can win, so I can appoint them to the Executive Council so that all Nova Scotians can see themselves being reflected in their government.
The comments led the opposition to suggest McNeil was trivializing the strength of some female candidates. Today, Jamie Bailey gathered with women who are carrying the PC flag to demand an apology and make this announcement.
We will increase the per vote subsidy that is paid to political parties after each election to provide an extra incentive when they nominate candidates that come from a diverse background across this province.
For a look at how the parties fare when it comes to gender parity, let's bring in Michael Gorman. Okay, Mike, you've been crunching the numbers. What'd you find?
Well, Amy, all three parties acknowledged that they could do a better job when it comes to diversity on their slate of candidates. But specific to women in this election, the NDP is running 24 female candidates, the Tories are running 17, and the Liberals are running 12. It's worth noting that all three parties use open nominations, and so what that means is ultimately the name on the ballot is decided by people voting in the electoral district associations.
Okay, so this criticism is about Steve McNeil's comments. What does his record show?
Well, as you heard from that clip at the beginning, it's actually pretty good by Nova Scotia standards. Last election, he got 10 of 14 female candidates nominated. into the House of Assembly, and that's a record for Nova Scotia. Of those 10 MLAs, 6 found their way into cabinet. That's also a record, and it included some pretty heavy portfolios like justice, community services, finance, and education. Also worth noting is that Stephen McNeil increased the number of female judges on the bench and the number of high-ranking bureaucrats within government.
All right, well, Mike, thanks for looking into this.
You're welcome.
And there's this. A PC candidate in HRM appears to be putting the cart before the horse. This caught our eye today. It's an election sign from the Matt Whitman campaign in his riding of Hammonds Plains, Lucasville. Notice how he describes himself as a PC MLA. But in order for that to be true, of course, he needs to win the election first. The spokesperson for the party says the sign will be changed as soon as possible to remove the MLA reference.